flag over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school board will convene to close session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statute 19.85(1) considering a 4K teacher, special education aide, full-time library aide, music and choir teacher, and special education aide part-time. We'll begin tonight with a presentation by M3, our health insurance group. Beck
Krasinski. Yeah, Krasinski, Beth Krasinski.
So you can go to the podium, you can sit there, you can.
When you tell me what you
No,
prefer, and I'm
you're
sure
fine
you
with that. You're fine.
Okay. So my name is Beck Krasinski. I work as your benefits broker through M3 Insurance, and I serve all of the school districts in the Door and Kewaunee counties. Tonight we are here because we are requesting that the board consider approving termination of the membership in the Door Kewaunee Insurance Purchasing Co-op, and that you rejoin a new co-op, the NEW Health Consortium. So you may recall that in 2019, the co-op split in terms of the health insurance carrier that they have. 5 of the schools went with WCA, Group Health Trust, as their provider, and 4 of the schools, including Sevastopol, went with Prevea 360. At that time, the group had talked about forming 2 separate groups, but had decided to stay as 2 separate units under one big umbrella. So over the last 2 years, as we've been working through the health insurance renewal process, it has become really clear that this 2 groups has posed more challenges. We've marketed the coverage for the WCA group each of those years, while the Prevea 360 group has enjoyed what they had negotiated in 2019, the 5-year contract, with rate holds in the first couple of years of the contract and then very small increases in the later years of that 5-year agreement. We've also found that through our wellness programming, it has been somewhat of a challenge with the resources that each of the different groups having access to are different. We have the Prevea program, the Prevea 360 resources, the Door County Memorial Hospital or DCMC resources, and then for the other portion of the co-op, we have different resources that we access and then different partnerships. Many of those, well, each of those school districts are partnered with either Aurora or with Bellin. And so to bring united programming has been a little bit of a challenge when the resources each access are different. Now there are some things that in the new setup we would still want to do together. There is still value in collaborating. And if ever there were a time when it would make good financial and service to the schools and to the community, if it made good sense to come back together as 9 schools versus a group of 4 and a group of 5, then we would absolutely come back with that recommendation. Both of those 2 groups are very similar in terms of the membership size. So a question that you may be considering would be, well, do we lose some of our buying power? I think the very simple answer to that is you have the same buying power that you've had since 2019 because you've been the group of Prevea 360 schools and the group of WCA schools. So that part remains unchanged. The organization that we are proposing for the NEW Health Consortium is under what's called the 660301 agreement. You likely have those for other reasons. That's just the state statute that allows you to jointly purchase things. Some school districts use them to buy textbooks with other school districts. Some of them use them for their school resource officer agreement with their local municipality. You might even use it to purchase road salt or other consumables. So it's a very common agreement that's used in governmental entities to come together. The nice part about the 660301 is that it is fully within the responsibilities of each individual school district. It is not forming a separate entity. It is just an agreement among the school districts to work together on things. Then that agreement is further supported by bylaws which we've worked with legal counsel and with the superintendents of all of the 4 school districts, along with some of the business managers, Carl included, to make sure that those bylaws reflected how we want the group to operate. We started with the bylaws of the current co-op as a base, so there's very little changes, but changes in places where it made sense. The final thing that the 660301 allows districts to do, or the current 4 districts to do, is to form with other public entities. So if we wanted to approach, say, Door County itself, or the city of Sturgeon Bay, or any of the other local municipalities that are purchasing health insurance individually now, those could become part of the buying group that NEW Health Consortium in the future as well. The 4 groups that would be part of this is Southern Door, Sturgeon Bay, Sevastopol, and Gibraltar. Each of the other boards have taken action either late March or early April, depending, well, as early as this past Monday, all depending on what your board meeting schedules were. So with Sevastopol's action, if that's the route that the board chooses to go, then we would have a reorganizational meeting, much like you're soon to have here, where we would then elect officers of the consortium and then move forward with our planning for strategy within the new buying group, which is the same group that is currently together for Purveyor 360. So I know that Carl and Kyle had prepared some of the materials that we had put together for you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Are we in any way eligible for the state employee health insurance group?
You are, yeah, you absolutely could consider that option. It's an option that once you enter into, you do not have access to your data, and you have to remain part of that group for at least 3 years. And if you leave the group, you cannot return for at least 3 years. The challenge about not having access to your data is you will always pay the rate they tell you to pay. You cannot negotiate your rate, and you can't negotiate your plan design. They give you basically a menu to choose from, and then you choose from that menu. But if it's something that the district wanted to explore, that would be an option.
And I think there's more insurance companies, more plans offered in Door County than there used to be through the state employee group. And it might give us a few more options that way. Plus, it seems to be a little more flexible. There are some different little nuances about that group.
More flexible than it used to be, or more flexible than our?
I think they have more plans, adjustable plans, with different deductible packages in this group.
Yeah, so again, it is a menu of options, and it has to be chosen at the employer level. So the district, similar to how you do now, where you decide which carrier do you want to work with, and then what is your plan design within that carrier, you'd make a similar selection from a menu of offerings that the state plan has.
So then, employees or staff members would not be able to pick and choose from the state group health options
Not from a whole list of, a variety of offerings.
that are offered in Door County.
It would have to be chosen by the employer.
So we'd only choose one.
Right.
Okay.
The state plan is a really great plan for very small entities. Like, the village or the town may offer state plan coverage to, their employees on a small basis. But what we've found when we've evaluated it for other employers is that it wasn't a better option. But if that's something that the district wants to look into, that's certainly something that could be considered.
Just a history question. There was the group of 9, and then a few years ago there was different perspectives of that group, and the 4 and 5 broke off and wanted to do different things. And so now we're but it was still under a big organization, and now we're going to break them up as separate. But then this new 66301 thing, you can partner if there's opportunity with other groups around. So
Correct. So the 660301 provides the district the most flexibility while still retaining the structure of a buying group that allows the insurance carrier to look at you as one group versus the 4 separate school districts. Yes.
And the plan was due for review in 2024? Is that what I interpreted?
Yes, your next renewal, I would count them out in my head. The
Yeah.
next renewal will be 24.
So why wouldn't we just renew at that time?
So you still will. That part will not change.
Okay.
So even the current Door-Kewanee County group voted in March to renew the plan for Purveyor 360 with the 4 schools, and same thing for the other 5 to renew with WCA. That has not changed.
The other 5 are going on the bid though, right?
They did.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's, we're kind of more stable, longer term than the other 5 are.
Yes.
They kind of need to do their own thing.
They've gone out to bid every year where we've been under the same contract for the last 3 years, and will be for another 2 years.
It's amicable between us.
Yeah.
And we'll keep talking to each other all the time.
Right, and again, if it makes sense to come back together as 9 at some point, then, you know, that's certainly something that can.
Are they doing the same thing on their 5?
So they're not doing anything. They are voluntarily staying as the Door-Kewanee County Co-op because they also have Washington Island with them. And then when we, had the conversation with all 9 school districts, what we thought was easiest at that time was for the Purveyor 360 school districts to voluntarily terminate. And the reason I say that is because that's the language that's in the bylaws. But voluntarily terminate the agreement that you currently have and then join the new group.
And with that cooperative still being there, it makes it easier if we all want to come back into it, it's still there.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, in front of you, you have a sheet where Mr. Volkman highlighted some motions. We're going to first ask for a motion, while Beck is here, we're going to ask for a motion to move item D under new business up to this point in the meeting. That's the first motion, if someone would like to make it.
Move to approve moving item D in new business to before guest comment on agenda.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then the second motion is to terminate the membership in the Door-Kewanee Insurance Purchasing Cooperative. If someone would like to make that motion.
I would move to approve the voluntary termination of membership in the Door-Kewanee Insurance Purchasing Cooperative.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then the third one will be a motion to approve the resolution for the new realignment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Other questions or discussion about that? Question or discussion?
Jerry, if you could read it for the camera, then we need to, so it's out there.
I make a motion to approve the resolution for the new Door-Kewanee Insurance Cooperative realignment as presented.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Do you need this taped back with you, or can I send it,
You
or?
can scan it. and-
Okay,
Yep.
I'll get to you Monday then.
Perfect.
All right.
Mr. Volkman, thank you for your orderly list of motions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll then
Thanks, Beth.
move on
Yeah, you don't
to,
have to stay as long as you want to.
I would love to.
Beck's the former superintendent of Pulaski, so she sat her share of board meetings over time, yes.
I didn't
And
get a
Sue
real,
and I were on WASB committees together
Right,
20 years ago, I think, when I was on the school board.
exactly.
Yes.
I didn't get a
Thank
real
you.
sincere feeling when you said I'd love to stay for the rest of the year. There's
Well-
something hidden in that expression.
You're my 4th board meeting this week.
Oh,
Wow.
drive safe.
But I had a fabulous tour of your building, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, safe travels. Thank you. We'll then move on to item B under presentations, which is the presentation by our guidance counselors.
I'm going to start by talking about the 3+1 program, which is an initiative that has been started through CESA 7. And what it's working to do is have students take their first 3 years in high school, and then their 4th year is a combination of dual credit, so meaning they get credit in high school and college at the same time, with the goal of completing a year of college before they graduate. So it's an opportunity to ensure access to post-secondary education for students and help them gain credits towards their future. What I was excited when I was going through this training, they brought in professionals from all of the colleges around UWGE, Oshkosh, NWTC, Lakeland, farther away technical colleges, and what was great is we're already working with most of those programs. So it was good. There was a couple more programs that they offered that I didn't know about that I think we will be able to use to help our students, but we are in a really good place, and that's some of the information I'm going to give you. I know you may have seen our dual credits, but I always think if we're going to talk about it, it's good information. So we use multiple programs. CAP is a program through Oshkosh. Our teachers teach it. Students pay $100 a credit. Generally, those courses at Oshkosh are $300 a credit, so saving them quite a bit. Taught by our teachers. Advanced placement is through the College Board. That the only cost there is the test. Our district pays for that for students. Transcribed credit is through NWTC. Similar to CAP, our teachers teach that program, but there is no cost to students. And then we use, as you probably saw last meeting, Start College Now and Early College Credit, where students can apply to take credits through the other colleges, and then often because of our location, they are taken online. So on the front is some descriptions, and then on the back it tells the courses that we offer here at Sevastopol in those areas. And that is as of next school year, just with some of the new things that we have added. So I did a little digging into our senior class data this year. We will be offering 68 college credits next school year. So my understanding from the 3+1 program is that they are looking for schools to offer 30 credits to get that designation. I still have to check on what that looks like, but we are doing really well. So that comes out to about 22 dual credit courses that we will offer at our school, taught by staff here next school year. So that doesn't include anything students might be taking online through other colleges. The class of 22 seniors, the average student is going to leave with 3 college credit. I did go through every single senior. Everyone has at least 1 college credit, and we have some up to 8, or I should say 1 college course. We have some that have 8 college courses going into college. So for some of them, that is the 30 credits that they're talking about in that 3+1. They took 136 college courses total in the last few years for the class of 22, which would transfer into at least 392 college credits. Every college takes courses a little bit differently. I tried to take that on the low end, but that could even take more. I used the data for tuition at Oshkosh and NWTC, and that could end up to be around a savings of $81,000 for the class of 2022. So that does not include retroactive credit. So for many of the UW colleges, students will go and take a placement exam before they start for math, English, and if they choose to a foreign language. And then if they place into calculus class, they would get the retroactive class credit for some of the courses before that. So I don't have data on that. I don't know that I can get that, but that would include more credit eventually for some of our students. So Right now, we would meet what they are talking about for 3+1 because we are offering so many opportunities for our students. But I wanted to also talk a little bit about what does that look like at a student level? What does that look like for different individuals? Because it's going to be very different for every student. For students who are looking at maybe Big Ten schools, out-of-state schools, Ivy League schools, I talk to them more about taking AP courses because CAP classes or NWTC courses often won't transfer to those schools, but AP is widely recognized across the United States. And the AP program has information on every college's policy on how they take those credits. So that is information we can get before they decide to take those credits. If a student is looking at nursing, we're going to look at the schools they're interested in, look very specifically at the courses that they might want to take, and then how will the things that we can offer transfer so that if they're taking a course, there's a good chance they will get that credit and it's covering something that they would be taking instead of just taking something that might not be helpful to them. For students at NWTC, same thing, we're so lucky to offer NWTC mathematical reasoning and English composition here. So a lot of students already go with 2 courses, but then we look at, is there a diversity class or psychology or oral communications? What other things can we help that they show in their program that they need to take, and we can start getting some of those things finished here. So right now, it really looks like we are on the right track. And with the CNC program next year and adding chemistry, we will be increasing from where we are this year. So that's the main information I have about the 3+1 program. Can I answer any questions? Yes.
What does a designation mean? Why do we care if we're already kind of doing it? I'm just curious.
Well, I think it's just a way to let families know that we have opportunities for students that help them just reduce time and money in college. For example, I was thinking about Holly's daughter. She took NWTC classes online, CAP classes, AP classes, and now, how much did she?
Well, yeah, so she wants to be a teacher, and today I actually told her she's going to be done in 3.5 years, and that half is actually going to be student teaching. I feel like, I mean, what have we got? Like, our teachers around here, it was like 4, if not 5 years, so she's going to be done. Yeah.
I love the idea. I didn't know if the designation meant we got more money or something.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That's what I was saying.
I have not heard that, but.
And the other thing too, from these learned experiences, I do think this is good, but I think the one thing is, I'm curious if, as we continue down this, because you're already doing it, right, is getting that feedback from the students.
Absolutely.
Because I think some of the things, and talking to the individuals, maybe they don't get the AP credit because they don't test well, but they still have a knowledge gain.
Absolutely.
And I think some people, the question I would have is, when you do get the AP credit, and you're going into that career field at college to study more, what you learn in a high school AP class might not compare at the end of the day to the college class. And if that individual is going into that profession or degree, those are discussions I think should be had, because you can see people in the knowledge gap. So they think, hey, I got, calculus or physics 1 out of the way, and then you jump up there and you're not, after the first month of physics, you're lost. And I think those are good program, but I think those are the things in your individual discussions that I think it's a great program, and if someone doesn't get the AP credit, I don't think it's the end of the, and quite frankly, it's Caden, I told him not to jump forward. I said, take the basic class. His experience was a month in physics, what he learned in AP physics, he's done. So he took 1 month of physics, he covered his senior year. But huge program, I think it's a good idea, but I think your discussion with the individuals and families, because you may not get credit, but it's also helping you take the next step without that big gap, because sometimes I think there's a gap from high school to college, and this would help that. Words of support, I guess.
So, are you on a active mailing list from some of the colleges that are offering special scholarship programs like UW-Madison for education majors, free tuition if they teach in Wisconsin?
I have not received any information about that. Generally, students, I have found, often have to log in to see that information when they are accepted.
Because I mean, I know, I did it against those sort of things, but it kind of surprised me, you know, when college education was offering free tuition at UW-Madison if the student agreed to teach in the state of Wisconsin.
That's the
Is that
first
current?
one.
Is that still happening?
I got it through, through the alumni association. That might
Did you send that to somebody?
That might have something to check out, yeah.
Well, it's either that or they're forgiving their tuition, or they're student loans, so 6 of one, half dozen another, I guess.
CISA 7 has a loan forgiveness program.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Some
you got-
those,
We send that out to our teachers every year.
sizable money.
But if you don't have to pay off the loan, we get it ahead of time, it's even better.
Right. But there are different options.
Great. Anything else?
This is just like me, the whole world. Yes, they said within WTC's board for 3 hours, so I'm on their board, this board. It's always interesting to see this part of our education world and that part of education. And even with my own background, because I used to talk to young girls with the stereotype of young girls that want to be nurses, and I used to say, hey, just go to TC. You're going to say to your parents, like, how a lot of money? And then you're going to go to a hospital, and they will pay your way for your BSN, okay? And then if you want to go on your master's after that, they'll pay for your master's, okay? So, how do you see the changes going on with, when I grew up, and many of us here, you had to go to college. That was like, you know, coming out of post-World War II, that was the goal, you know, from families that never had a college educated person. But now I see it's so differently. And then from where I sit on TC, I look at all these occupations that are going hungry, saying, do these young kids know how much they can make in just a year out of school and still have the opportunity to do whatever they want to? So how do you keep abreast of that? And how do you, because I still feel, it's a bias, but I still feel that the guidance departments and parents are still pushing their kids to go to the traditional 4-year school. And the stereotype I have is, you know, stereotypes are usually wrong, but based on element of truth, is that so many kids then go off to 4-year schools for a year, flunk out, and then go look at now their family is in a huge amount of debt. So talk to me about how do we acquaint the bulk of the kids, because the bulk of the kids are not going to become PhDs or master's degree or college graduates. So that's what the parents may want. And then how do we acquaint them with like the opportunities of a lifetime?
Well, it's hard because there are so many opportunities out there. I know the good thing that I have the ability to do is go to a lot of, I guess, seminars through the colleges where they share with us the new things coming up. Where are the job opportunities? What are the new programming? What are things that are going on? Because it's hard to keep track of every single piece, but that has been very helpful with NWTC being in our building, and they share a lot of information with us. The colleges do as well. But also just I guess on my end, trying to see what are, like NWTC often put out a publication called Outlook, and it was like 2020, the 10 years ahead, checking out what are the jobs that are looking like they're going to have the highest rise and making sure students are aware of those.
I apologize, this is the board. Do the guidance counselors in the schools have ongoing face-to-face meetings with the guidance people coming out of the tech school so that you're all on, you know, I mean, is that a routine basis or?
Mm-hmm.
Because the numbers of tech schools, the tuition, the attendance is down, just like it is in four-year colleges all over the country. It's down significantly. Our high year was like just around the last recession, which was like 2009.
Do those, the
So my concern would be a tech school or a college would be influenced by, they want more kids to come and pay money for their school. Do they also talk about, all the, and you have some of the co-op plans, or whatever those plans are, where kids are working, my kid's working right now, half a day right now, 2 hours, and that's awesome, is those programs, because who's telling right now, we need plumbers, welders, and journeymen in construction like you wouldn't believe. And I don't know if TC or colleges would care about publicizing that. So do they talk about those jobs as well? Because that's the jobs you're talking about there. You can leave the
I'm not talking
workforce.
about
of
jobs I
your-
never even knew about either. I mean, we just had this thing about a big discussion like, I want to get rid of the degrees. Because kids don't even want that anymore. They want to come in and get the skills and get out of there and not sit around for all the time. So therefore, tech school, we've gone to eight-week sessions. You're in and out of classes in an 8-week period, so you can put together your type of compendium of how to get in and out, because that's what, and the other problem is we don't even get the kids now because the companies are hiring kids and saying, you don't need to go to tech school, come and work for us. Well, that's problems too, because at least the educational tech school opens their minds up to other occupations. There's so many other things that are not dirty jobs, as we think of dirty jobs, which are out there that, I always marvel at, all the various programs. And I just keep on always asking them, how do the guidance counselors, what kind of system is in place so everybody is current on what's getting, and how are we getting to the parents to tell them, Johnny doesn't need to go to Madison. Johnny doesn't need to go to Whitewater. Johnny can go to Green Bay, or Johnny can go to Fox Valley Tech or something like that, and have a great job.
I guess on my end, I encourage students, when it's something like nursing, that you could go multiple paths. I make sure when families come in and meet with me junior year, we talk about all of those paths and look at which colleges offer those paths, because I don't want to tell a family what the right path is, because that's a decision that the family has to make together. But then I do encourage them to check out both opportunities, because they're very different, which it makes sense what is the best path for that person.
So like in nursing, are you familiar like 121? The 121, I mean, that is an awesome program. Saves a lot of money. The kid, the person gets their BSN in 4 years, but at half the price. 121 is a year of tech, 2 years at GB, 1 year at tech, and you got your BSN money, and you live on the, we just got, tech just got, TC just got approved that early this week on offering 2 bachelor programs. So there's a lot of going on now between GB and some of the surrounding colleges and putting them all together, which makes a lot of sense. We can save people a lot of money.
So regarding our students, were you done?
I am, thank you.
Regarding our students specifically,
Yes.
do we have historical data on where they are 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out? It seems to me like so many go off to the 4-year college, and after the first or second semester, they're back here doing manual labor. So how were they not prepared? Was it mom and dad pushed them to go to 4-year college? Were they not prepared academically? Were they not prepared socially? Do we have any tracking on that so that we can do a better job of keeping them in school
That's
someplace?
a great question. We don't. There is something called the National Data Clearinghouse that does offer some of that information on if students complete and where they transfer to, but the social piece and some of those other pieces we do not have data on.
Do we do that ourselves?
We do have School Perceptions doing this survey as students come. We've only started a couple of years ago, so we're not to like the 4 or 5 years out to see.
So we're doing 1 year out?
And then they'll end up at 5 years, but we're not that far out yet.
So we're 1 year and 5 year?
Right.
I think we need to be there 2 years, 3 years. Because by the time we're 5 years, we've totally lost. That's my opinion. I think 5 years is too long.
But once they're out the door, we can't do anything.
Once they're out the door,
Right.
why?
You think that, you're saying the data at the second or third year would be better than 5 and 1?
I don't know.
Well, if,
I'll talk to school
well,
perceptions.
my perspective is, first of all, this 3+1 briefing was good, by the way. And I think the other thing that we're recognizing, so which you don't have all the answers here today, so this is for future support from this table, is what I'm recognizing and learning is this transition from high school to whatever they want to do. I think we need to do more focus somehow. And I don't know what that means. And I'm not just, hey, go figure it out. I'm just saying, as you guys are working together, if there's ideas, programs, something, because I think a lot of what I'm hearing of community members and kids, and I don't know the answer, they go down this dead end and they don't like it. And they just spent a lot of money. Or they go this way and they don't like it. And you're right, there's lots of variables. The only question is there anything the school could help with to help that transition? Because if someone jumps into their whatever they love, lawn service, and they run and set up a great business, they are happy. This school has sent them down a path to be happy. The next dude might get a PhD in physics. That's his path. He's happy, whatever, whatever. And I think that's an area of focus. And I go back to my education. Now, there was a gap when I left high school to college. I got punched in the face, and I wasn't ready. And I think that continues. So it's an ongoing problem, and I think with today's world, we need to focus more on that. And maybe that's talking to the admin team about resources. I don't know, but that's what the school board can discuss. But that's what I think is with all the stuff going on, that's one area that's maybe we could start focusing on. And it kind of ties into the GT program. The DG program is starting to put together paths together. You're helping and supporting this and all these kind of things, and helping kids figure out what they want to do their +1, as in colleges or the co-op program. So I think we're recognizing that's, if you think it wasn't important before, maybe it was, it should have been, but we're saying it's maybe more important in my perspective.
So this is a topic that seems to have a lot of problems that we could talk about all night. Do we have anything real focused on? Because she's got a lot of other areas that she covers and probably has some other information for us. So do we want to, are there other important questions now about this topic, or do we want to bring her back and talk about it sometime, or should we move on now?
I think we do have to move on to be respectful of their time. Melissa and I can connect with school perceptions and see what they're finding out with the surveys, if that's a better time frame or not, and why they pick the time they do.
I wonder if colleges may have more information too about what they're seeing on their campuses. That might be another good resource.
I think, off the top of my head, I think colleges and technical schools wouldn't want to tell you about their unsuccessful rate. They want to tell you about their success stories, right? So,
I think what we're doing, this is part of it, we're doing informational briefs at the school board. I think at some point, not with a hard date, but we should come back, because I think there's dialogue and interest for ways to help. I think this was a good briefing, it's good, but I think, what is our purpose really is to raise good kids, smart kids, to go and to achieve their goals, whatever they are. And the only thing I think we're recognizing, I'm repeating myself now, is that transition is significant. We gotta help kids and families guide their kids where they're going.
And so, Mrs. Melford, you have other
Yes.
areas
Oh,
that
today, I thought we could just pick on you the whole night.
So
Well,
we're
we
also
can't pick
here
on
to
her,
talk
but she's got
about,
other areas she covers.
yeah, we're also here to talk about the curriculum that Holly and I offer in our in the classrooms. So what we use is the American School Counselor Association Mindset and Behaviors, which goes through that school counselor curriculum is focused around academic areas, personal social areas, and career areas. So we are both going to go through some of the examples of things that we cover in classes. We did bring some things to pass around just because I know sometimes it makes more sense when you can see things. So I am going to let Holly start. Start. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess my first, oops. So I have kind of all grade levels. And I guess I want to say, so some of the things I feel like obviously career lessons you kind of know the gist of that is probably, but some of the things you probably are going to have no idea what that means. So I'm going to try to do my best to kind of explain some things just so you kind of understand actually what we're teaching. So first I have here kind of what I do at all grade levels, and so yeah, careers, I kind of do 2 to 3 lessons for each grade level. Basically a lot of just like what careers are out there for the kids, and kind of the idea of like
if they like animals, what could that lead to? I do a bully lesson in every grade, every year, kind of understanding what a bully is, what a bystander is, where you stand by and do nothing, and an upstander, and then obviously that you make sure you're telling us, because that's a pretty important thing. It doesn't happen a ton around here, but I really want them to know that. We do a growth mindset, just the whole idea that you can make mistakes. And then the other two I wrote on here, and I'll kind of explain it later when I get to in the grade levels when I actually introduce it, but there's zones of regulation and Kelso's choices. And those are pretty big curriculums here. I feel like it's a lot of universal language. The whole, I'm sure you kind of know exactly what we're talking about for that. And so I put it under there because I don't exactly do a lesson in every grade level, but I kind of introduce it in kindergarten 4K, and then kind of as they mature, it kind of gets the next little step of those curriculums. So if I start in 4K, so first one, social thinking. So that kind of means basically, this is the first time they're ever together, how they act socially. And so I kind of brought some of these books, I don't know if you wanted to see them, but they're like the one is important, it's called The Group Plan. And so basically it kind of teaches the kids that even though I'm still coloring and I'm not really breaking a rule or doing anything naughty, you need to stop because Mrs. D or Mrs. Bly said we have to line up for lunch. And so it's kind of the whole, like, that's just the group plan, and that's just what we all do around here kind of thing, because a lot of kids don't quite get that. We actually teach them how to listen, like what their body's supposed to look like, just thinking with their eyes, keeping their body in the group, that kind of thing. So that's how we start out in 4K. And then in 4K is when I do introduce the zones of regulation. So you can kind of see that on the bottom. There's 4 different zones, blue, green, yellow, and red. So blue is sad, green is happy. Yellow is kind of a lot of feelings of like silly, worried, frustrated. And then red, of course, is mad. And we teach them that we understand to have any of those feelings, it's even okay to feel mad if someone your favorite toy breaks, you can feel mad, but the whole idea is how to regulate yourself and get you back to the green zone, because the green zone is when you're happy, you're ready to learn, and you're calm. And so we kind of do a lot of lessons of how to get back to that. And also, like, it's okay to be mad, but obviously we can't be kicking and throwing a temper tantrum, that kind of thing. And then we do a lot of Daniel Tiger. So Daniel Tiger is the cartoon version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and it's a PBS show. And so we'll watch some of those videos, and then it's like a lesson on sharing, and we follow up the next week with more, things sharing, I don't know, being good friends, that kind of thing, being patient. So that's 4K. And then, okay, and then so then kindergarten, we start out with the curriculum that's called School of Champions, and basically there's a little puppet, and his name is Champ, and he is a champion of his school, so he teaches the kids how to be good listeners and to work hard and try your best and that kind of thing. And then we do Kelso's, this is when we introduce the Kelso's choices. So here, I was going to, because I feel like I made copies of this so you guys really understand, because I feel like this is huge. We really, really, really try to get the kids to solve their own problems. So the first step of it is understanding what a big problem is. Obviously, if someone's kicking or hurting you, you're scared, that you go right to an adult. But if it's a small problem, that you can try to handle it yourself and not just go tell the teacher and expect the teacher to handle it. And so they learn all of those choices up there, go to another game, chalk it out, ignore, walk away, tell them to stop, and all those things. We kind of tell them we want them to try 2, sometimes even 3 things before they tell an adult if it's a small problem. And like I said, that continues all the way through. And then we do a curriculum that's called Kimochi, and there's like 5 characters that we learn about. They all have different personalities, and then because of that have different feelings. It's kind of a little bit of an empathy introduction, because we kind of learn how to understand how they're feeling and why they might be feeling that way. And then I end the year with a stranger danger lesson. There's a pretty funny video about making sure that you're with your safe side adult, and so that's how we end kindergarten. And okay, and then in 1st grade, there's a curriculum called The 7 Habits of Happy Kids. You can kind of see, that's, I don't know, you can't quite see it up there. So here's the book. And we did, in 1st grade, I just introduced the habits. And so the habits kind of are like being proactive, meaning like you just have to kind of try to figure things out. There, I was going to try to show you guys the, where is it in here? Hold on. Oh, here. And then there's like having a plan, kind of having a goal, the idea that you have to work first and then you can play, the idea of kind of compromise, that it's like a win-win situation, listen before you talk, that working together is better. And then the last habit is kind of like balance in your life. So we just do a little bit of an introduction to all of those habits. And then we do, there's Tom's amazing remote control. So there's the remote control, the kids get to make a remote control. So they like that. And it's kind of self-regulation. You know, there's the pause button, you have to pause and relax. There's the fast forward, the idea that like you have to kind of realize what's going to happen if I do this. There's a rewind of like I did this, so how could I have done it differently? Lots of buttons, so it's kind of figuring out how to regulate themselves. And then in first grade, we then do the kind of next level of the social thinking, which are these books. So there's another, I love how these do these, because it's like a way of teaching them to be kind, but so this one is expected and unexpected behavior. So this is just like the perfect example. So like if I get up in the middle of the class when Mrs. Fleur is talking to sharpen my pencil, it's not like, you know, they're breaking a rule. We don't have that rule written on the board that says don't sharpen your pencil when the teacher's talking, but it's unexpected. And it's expected to sharpen your pencil during, you know, so it's a really good way to kind of explain how to act at school. There's ones on the size of the problem, to be flexible, so if you're working in a group, you can't have stuck thinking. Smart guess, so another kind of thing of just socially how to work with other kids. And then, what's the next one? Okay, so in second grade, I wrote on here because I really do another pretty big chunk of the Kelso's choices again. Because in kindergarten, I feel like one of the ones on there is asking them to please stop. And that's perfect for kindergarten, you know, stop it, stop whatever. But at some point, we want them to try a few more things than just saying, stop it, stop it. So, you know, to kind of actually use your word and say, hey, what you're doing is really bothering me, can you do this? And so it's a kind of a little bit more mature level of how to handle some of the problems. And then we do the super flex. So it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but the kids love this. So there's a superhero, and then there's all these unthinkables that get in their brain, and you have to talk about how to defeat them. So there's like rock brain, so rock brain gets you stuck, and he gets you like not to be flexible, and then you have to figure out how to defeat him. Glass man, he gets you mad really fast, and you break like glass, and so he gets in your head, how do you defeat him? Brain eater is like when you're distracted, so it's kind of cool. We learn about all the unthinkables, and then how to defeat them, so you kind of have to like, I don't know, there's energy here, it's just good, the kids love it. And then we kind of ended the year with executive functioning skills, which is kind of like organization, up there, time management, working memory, attention, that kind of thing. And then in third grade, we really hit the 7 habits of happy kids. And so like in first grade, I feel like we kind of do a lesson on each of the habits, but in third grade, we kind of do 2, maybe even 3, and they really kind of like what it actually might look like in their life to have some of these habits. And then we do some working in groups. There's some plays that the kids get to read on, where there's someone who's lazy, there's someone who's bossy in a group, and then they're trying to figure out how to work with those in a group. And then we kind of end it with it's the food group series. I don't know if you guys have seen that. So it's like the bad seed, smart cookie, good, I can't remember what they are. Couch potato, anyways, and it's a lot of just character kind of education and how to, you're not always going to be a bad seed, you can change, and so that's kind of how we end third grade. And then fourth grade, I really hit empathy hard, because I feel like fourth grade is kind of the first time they really kind of understand that people might have a different feeling than me, people have different other, lives, things going on in their lives, and it's not just like me, so we really hit empathy. So we start off the year with this dare, weird, and tough, and it's kind of cool because it's one's a victim, one's the bully, and one's the bystander. And it's the same story through all 3 books, but you kind of get it from each of their perspectives to kind of understand how they're feeling and how they're thinking through it. And then I read him Crash. I've done this the last couple of years, and it's a Jerry Spinelli book. So he kind of starts out, he's an athlete, and he thinks he's pretty cool, and he thinks everyone else thinks he's pretty cool, and he's actually pretty mean, kind of a bully. And then throughout the book, his grandpa gets sick, and then he kind of starts to see his grandpa's always been there for him, is he there for his grandpa? And then it's kind of interesting who shows up to kind of support him when grandpa was sick. And then in the end, it's the best, the end is, so he actually lets the kid who he bullied win a race because his great-grandpa was there to watch him, and he knew that that was important for him and his great-grandpa see. So by the end, he really understood empathy. And it's just like some really, really, really good discussions come out of that. And then we ended the year with Julia Cook, so she's kind of an author, and she has a lot of character building books, so like it's not my fault. That rule doesn't apply to me. There's different books. And then in 5th grade, we started with kind of working together in groups again, because I think that's huge, because I tell them all the time, can they think of one job that you don't have to work with someone? And they always come up with artists, and I'm like, well, even that, if you want to sell anything, you also still have to work with people. And then I didn't know I could be a child left behind, and it's kind of hoping they get some habits for academic skills. And I talk about it a lot into moving into middle school and high school, like just for example, the assignment notebook. Like in 5th grade, if you don't write anything in the assignment notebook, you can just look up on the board, because Mrs. Merkel will have the assignments, and that's how you pack up. But when you hit middle school, you know, you're going to be in art or band, and you don't have any clue what Mr. Retzlaff and Mrs. D'Antoine wrote for your assignment. So get in the habit of using your assignment notebook, all of those kind of things to try to get them to start thinking about good academic habits, already in 5th grade before they move on. And then we do kind of a pretty good, it's conflict versus bullying, the whole idea that like if two of us are fighting, that's not bullying, but then it kind of goes into the idea of like what the intent is. It's kind of cool, because it's like, if you're fighting in the gaga ball pit, because you think I'm out and the other person thinks I'm out, so automatically the other person's being mean. It's like, well, really? Like, or do they just want to win the game? And do you just want to win the game? So that kind of the understanding of why you have a conflict. And then right at the end, which is right about now, last week we did this, Melissa takes over for 5th grade so she can she does some get to know you stuff, so she can meet the kids before they go to middle school, and then does a lot of middle school transitions. Yeah.
Lots of discussion about what are you concerned about, how can we make you feel better before you go out to the summer, practicing blocks, bringing the 8th graders in to answer all their questions about middle school, giving them a tour. Yeah. Lots of fun things.
So, okay, and so go ahead, Melissa, you get to what you do in middle school, high school. Unless, I don't know, if we can take questions at the end if there's anything. That's kind of what we do.
How much time do you spend with?
Oh, I'm in every class, I go in there once a week for every class. So every week I'm done.
So in middle school, we just start out talking about how are things going? Can we problem solve things? What do we need help with? How, one of the reasons I go down to 5th grade is so that they have some familiar faces when they come. They know where my office is. If there's something going on, they know who to stop by. So that's what we start with in 6th grade. We also start talking about some stress management because things are different in middle school. What I did this year was really helpful. I did a pre-survey. What are you feeling like your stresses are? I found out it wasn't so bad. So we didn't do 3 lessons. We just did 1 because they were feeling pretty good. We talk about how do you recognize when you have some stress, what are some strategies that you personally feel like work for you, who can you go to for help if those strategies aren't working for you. I like to talk to the 6th graders about friendships because it helps me really get to know the dynamics in their class and help to understand things going on in their class better. That helps me. Then we start to work on conflict resolution, communication, looking at how to be an assertive person, but not aggressive or passive. We talk about internet safety because students have more and more time online. I just had that conversation today. I was pretty shocked at how much time students are spending online. And talking about, talking to other people online and how we need to really protect ourselves. Perspective taking I have found is really important, especially lately. Like, it's okay. Can you agree to disagree? How might 2 people think the same thing is completely different? That's okay, right? You don't like veggie pizza and you do, and that sounds silly, but there are some very strong feelings, So, and then I love to start careers in middle school with the career clusters. So there are 16 career clusters. They are grouped by similar things in that career. For example, marketing, business administration, transportation. And lots of 6th graders are going to come in and say, I'm going to be a veterinarian. Because that's what maybe they've had exposure to. So I really say, okay, well, we're not gonna pick one career, we're gonna learn about all of the clusters, do a little digging. I give them a survey that goes through a lot of the things that would be in the clusters, but they don't know what it is until the end, to help them kind of see what might be some general areas that they could start being interested in. I ask them to pick 3, and then they research a career cluster and look at, can you tell me 5 jobs that are in that career cluster? So you start to learn more than just the veterinarian. What other opportunities might be out there? What is the job outlook? So what kind of education might you need for those different things? Did you know you have to go to school for this many years for a veterinarian? What if you want to do something different? Is that the right fit for you? Started to get them thinking about those pieces. In 7th grade, again, we talk about internet safety, but a little bit more in depth, a little bit more at a 7th grade level, talking more about other people on the internet, how they're interacting with you, watching your time on the internet. We talk about, I have an example here. So with COVID, I started to go a little bit more digital, and now that students have their own computers, so they get a copy of, I call it their career DNA. So maybe they aren't researching different careers, but they're starting to look at pieces about themselves and how that fits into different careers. So what are your values in a career? What are your preferences? Do you want to work outside or inside? Do you want to work with people, computers, tools? Start looking at those different pieces, because if you tell me you're super social, but then you say you want to be a computer programmer, are those things fitting with each other? I don't, kind of hopefully helping them find the right pathway for their own personality. So we have a whole bunch of lessons, and then they have to do reflections each time. Okay, so if this is what I'm finding out about my values or my preferences or interests, how does that fit with the careers that I'm starting to be interested in? Or what are careers that I maybe haven't thought of yet that relate to my own assessments of myself? Again, stress management, again, talking about strategies, making sure they feel like they have some options. And then usually I have them around April, and since that's Autism Awareness Month, we start talking about accepting differences, how to be a good classmate to somebody who might be different than you, and really talking about those different pieces, other things that, again, empathy, things that other people might have going on that students don't realize. So in 8th grade, we start talking a lot about the transition to high school, so we talk about growth mindset. Like Holly said, failure is okay. How do you set goals? How do you keep motivation? How do you keep perseverance and determination? And working through things that are hard. I have been using for quite a few years this book. It's called Top 20 Teens. It goes through how to think about things successfully. Like if you really don't like a class, but you still have to take math for 4 years, which reminds me, it's like, I know you don't like it in 7th grade, but it's still gonna be there for a while. How do you change your thinking about math? Maybe you don't have a 180 where you're like, it's my favorite class, but how do we just make it a little bit better so that you can be more successful? It goes into a lot about not missing the boat. If you're gone from school, how do you handle that? Can you maybe minimize absences, things like that? And then it talks about being a good communicator, how to be respectful to your parents, other students, things like that. We do use several of them to do some career inventories and research. I have students research 3 different careers, and they look at what kind of education might be needed, what things could you take in high school, what's a job description, do you need a license to do that job, how would you get that, different pieces about that. Then from those 3 careers, we start to look at even just things about college in general. Starting to think, maybe how big of a college if you're going to college, or if you're looking at a job, how far away do you want to go? What might that look like? And then they do some research on like a technical school and a 4-year college and kind of comparing the differences there so that they can have some information about what that looks like. And then we end the year with high school transition. So we're talking about grade point averages, going over a sample transcript so that they kind of understand you get a blank slate when you go into high school, but you don't want to think about your transcript as a junior, you want to start thinking about it as a freshman. We started talking about what are all the activities that Sevastopol offers. I have everybody go around and say one thing they'd like to join. How do you know when to join? What do you do if you miss the first meeting? Volunteering. We talk about summer jobs and applications, how to get a worker's permit. So we just start talking, advocating for yourself in high school. If something isn't going well, who do you feel comfortable talking to? How do you do that? What does that conversation look like? In high school, it looks a lot different. I don't go into the classroom as much. I have more group meetings or small meetings, one-on-one meetings. The one main curriculum that I do have for high school is signs of suicide. I don't cover it when it's a year that they have health class because I know that's covered in there. We do go through the different signs and then how do you handle that? I also have a separate one for seniors. How do you handle that as an adult? Because that's not quite the same as what you're going to do in your high school when you ask for other resources. There's definitely class presentations talking about what is financial aid, what is scholarships, what are the different options for career paths, different things like that when teachers ask. Individual junior meetings, inviting the families to come in with their student and then talking specifically about what their student's path is instead of having a broad discussion. At that point, they're really wanting to get more on what we need to do. Registration meetings with 8th through 11th grade, going into every class, talking about courses, how to sign up, what's changed for that year, that kind of information. Scheduling meetings at night with students and families, going through similar information about the things that we offer at Sevastopol, how to get help, answering questions. This year, I just started doing minute meetings. I started with the seniors. I had 10 questions. I sit outside the English room on a day that they are having a work day, and I just pull in every student, go through the 10 questions. What do you need help on before you graduate? If you are going to work, do you know where? Have you applied? Do you know what that process looks like? Do you have questions on the FAFSA? Have you applied for any scholarships? And then I do that pretty quickly and then gather a list of who do I need to meet with, who needs more time. The CAP, Start College Now, online applications, registrations, math placement, that takes quite a bit of time. I sit down and help them all get through their applications before summer. I don't want that to be a barrier if there's questions. And then in fall, we do the registration process. The career path days, we use Zello. I think the next one I have, like UWGB coming, so setting up all of the different speakers and lessons. I think I have UWGB coming in to talk about essays, NWTC is coming to talk about job outlook, and we are using, NWTC put this book together. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. It's their ACP workbook, and it goes through job market, career values, skills, and then researching through what does that look like for you, and how do you start looking at colleges and what the best plans for you and how to go to colleges and talk to them and make sure you're asking the right questions. And then there's so much information coming from places these days, so classrooms online with the juniors and seniors where I can share information that it's easy for them to search back and not have to dig through an email that they probably deleted that was for a scholarship they actually really needed to know. So I think that's our main questions, but yes.
On the follow-up on the minute meetings, that sounds neat to me. So would you do that with the seniors, or?
That's the first one, but I want to do juniors before the next end of the year, but yes.
My follow-up on that would be for you to consider if you could grow this and you have the time, so I don't know about that. In my opinion, if you could do that, get to the point where you do it freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, because this way you're forcing them very quickly, a few minutes of the day, but if you do it freshman, sophomore, by senior year, they're going to know you pretty well, and they might be more comfortable asking the question.
For sure.
Versus, so now that takes time and stuff. I like that, because sometimes you got to force the kid, but don't waste your time or their time. That's a neat idea. So
I just saw these last year. My goal is actually to do it in the high school in the fall and spring.
Because what I like about them is they're kind of forced meetings, because some kids are shy, and they're not all like me, right? Shy and reserved, and you gotta go talk to them and cultivate it, and then all of a sudden, on that third meeting, they may ask something you could guide them to a life-changing discovery, like, oh, this is what I want to do. So, anyways, that's cool.
What other questions?
I've got two. Number one is, what's your literature setting that in your world? The number of students at the junior, senior year say I want to be at blank. And 10 years later, how many of them are blank? Because I used to think that the real wide opening experience is usually like my 10th year class reunion. Like, you're a what? You know, like, real, that's to blow your mind because everybody's still really young and they're going into, but you never imagine careers some people go into. Like, you always had this theory, well, you're lucky to graduate. Now have 15 companies and do all sorts of like, where that come from? So is there data on that?
There probably is. I
So you don't
quite
like
honestly
it?
haven't seen
Okay.
it.
Secondly, the question is, in both of your roles, what do you see as the biggest changes in the students here, pre-COVID, post-COVID?
That's a tough question. I think it's changing now that we're in school more full-time, but I would say one thing I saw a lot of last year more was anxiety. I think that changing every other day was hard for some students, especially if they're anxious students. They'd rather stay home all days. So, but I do feel like now that we are here more and that routine is more consistent, that has helped. And they maybe aren't as worried about some other things in the world, but that was a real big one.
But I think our other thing is we did this like whole thing this year of like, what's your strategy? Because we really found there was a lot of kids who like, when they were their home, and so then at least for me, and mom and dad did everything for them, or it was just mom and and like the two kids. So it's like, but I will go get this and I'll get this for you. And so I feel like a lot of kids kind of were waiting for an adult to fix every problem or do things for them, or they would just. I think there were also some kids who just went in their bedroom and just were on a screen the whole time, so they just avoided everything. So just the whole idea of like, you got to come back, you got to be doing this, you got to be figuring out how to make yourself better. And anxiety definitely came from that too, because then it's like, well, mom's not here, I don't know what to do. And so I saw a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, 'cause I was talking to a person who works in a pediatrician's office in a large metropolitan city in northeast Wisconsin, and they said that the big increase they've seen is mental health issues.
Not a question, but a compliment. You certainly have given us a very good, comprehensive view of what you're doing, and it's almost like you each have a job and a half.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, thank you. It was enlightening. Okay, we don't have any guests, so we have no guest comments. Does anyone have anything they wish to have removed from the consent agenda? If not, that is approved by consent, and we have some nice donations, $500 for pupil services from the Stella Maris Parish, $43.77 for the choir and band from the JP Express Genu Pride Pump. Steve Robach, State Farm, gave $500 for DI and $285 for the senior party. And again, JP Express, the Genu family, $1,000 for scholarships, $1,000 for the senior party, and $3,000 for the band and choir. So thank you very much to all of those organizations and people. We'll move to administrator reports. Mr. Hiltz.
Good evening, thank you. Just wanted to draw a little bit of attention because it happened more or less right after I put this report together, but a lot of kudos to the people, especially spearheading it was Deborah Hurst and her team putting together the literacy night. They did an outstanding job, and lots of people here, A lot of people came in excited, and a lot of people left real happy, so it was really nice to see.
I wasn't here for that, but that was like fun. They had foosball tables and they had old Pioneer gear where kids could go have their pictures, a photo booth, and just stuff all over the place. Really fun.
And huge compliment to Ben Roman. He came, he was one of the guest speakers, readers for the kids in here, and the personality that he gave to the book as he was reading it, it was just very infectious with the group that was watching him and those kind of things, and he did a really nice job.
That's it. Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mrs. Very appreciated. First thing I'd like to draw attention to is our ACT data is back for our junior class, and they did an outstanding job. That's the highest score we've ever achieved. It's 22.3, and all test results are in. So I'm really proud of that class. I know that that'll lead to opportunities for the future. I also want to add a few events and congratulations to a couple groups. First, Destination Imagination. We have 2 teams that achieved global competition. So we have a middle school team and we have an elementary team. So congratulations to them and the coaches. In addition to that, we had 2 students, Leslie Ruiz and Rory Kruger, who earned a first place in forensics at the state competition, and Jordan Welch earned a second place. Many of you will be joining us for academic awards. This is the biggest group I can remember ever recognizing. We'll be recognizing 85 students on Tuesday, so that's really a huge accomplishment. I'm very proud of them. One of the things we're looking forward to beyond National Honor Society and academic awards is, of course, prom, and that is at the Pavilion, on April 23rd. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Barbara.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight the Gifted and Talented program. Just recently, we had added an art component to it, and excited to work with local artists and former GT teachers that are here in the county. It's Jane Moeller and Jeff Olson, and they are working with 13 of our students, and they are working on helping with the exterior and interior of building a 3D building. So they're going to be doing that over a series of, I think, 6 to 7 weeks. But one of the things that's most exciting is they're going to have an art exhibition, and it's going to be at the Dome Home. And there's the Dome Home that's on South Cape Point Drive, and it's going to be open to the public. And I just think it's really, really cool that our students are going to actually have that experience too, working with the artist, building a 3D design, and then they're going to set it up, and then we can come in and see all of their hard work. So it's really, really exciting to see all these different programs take off the way that they are. So I really wanted to highlight that for the board and then highlight it for the public as well, because it's something that I know we're really proud of, and I'm really, really excited to see the outcome of that. So I really wanted to just to highlight that in addition to my report tonight.
Thank you.
And I understand that we are getting $17,179.
Exactly that much.
From
Yes.
the governor's
Yes.
Get Kids Ahead initiative. That's
It is.
great.
It is really good.
Yes,
So we
thank you
are
for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. We're going to work, as an admin team too, about how we're going to use those funds. We talked a little bit about the importance and power of professional development to empower our staff here to be able to address the needs that we're seeing. And we're in the beginning part of that conversation now. So I know that you'll be hearing more of that as we move forward.
We actually already got the funds. We actually already have the funds.
Already have them.
They're already in the bank.
And you're thinking, well, it's some training for development, professional
Absolutely.
development? Awesome.
Absolutely. But what that looks like right now, we don't know. We did hear a little bit from the staff, but we've got some work to do to figure out how to use that money, how to be smart with that money to get the most bang for the buck.
Thank you. Any questions anyone wants to direct on the athletic directors and gifted and talented directors report? There are none of those. We'll move to Mr. Lickey.
Yeah, I just want to highlight transportation a little bit. Maybe you've heard we get some bus issues with like brakes on a bus and stuff lately. We ordered a new bus in December. We're still waiting delivery on it 6 to 9 months out. We have one built in next year's budget, so I'm going to tell Dan late April, early May to order that one. So probably another 6 months out on that. Buses have gone up in price from like $90,000 to $105,000, and the next one will probably be $5,000 or $10,000 more on top of that. And we do have a rotation with our fleet. With 13 buses and 2 vans and a pickup truck. So we do a rotation and we keep the fleet as current as we can. We can't afford all the buses in 1 year. A couple years ago, we did like 2 in 1 year. And also with transportation, at our PAC meeting last Friday, the districts were talking about how we get these kids all these athletic competitions and extracurriculars when we're short bus drivers, and other districts are in worse shape with bus drivers than we are. So they're starting to allow kids to drive more, but if you do that, you take on more liabilities. So CEC's putting together a PowerPoint presentation on steps we should take to, if we go down that route, to protect ourselves as much as possible. But it's getting to be more and more difficult to, well, Tuesday night we had all our buses out for extra routes, plus we had a combustion bus because we had, everybody was in action, so they're all going. So it gets more and more difficult, especially right after school, because we're running regular routes and then we get the sports teams going too. So it's just the way the world's going.
Do you need a CDL to drive a bus?
You need a CDL passenger, so that's more difficult than just a CDL license. Yes, absolutely.
Are schools paying for those licenses for the kids?
What?
Would the schools pay for those licenses, or that's what's being discussed?
We're looking for avenues, like if any of our coaches go, we've offered it to teachers in the past. It's
I'm curious, my dad used to drive buses.
yeah, it's getting harder and harder to get, and our drivers are older crowd.
And it'd be good, if you got a CDL, you're marketable on too when you come out of high school, so just.
Right.
I'm interested to see where that goes.
No, we're not talking about kids, we're not talking about students driving.
Students drive themselves as they drive their own cars.
Driving
Oh.
their own cars.
Not driving a bus, but driving their own cars.
Driving their own cars, and you take on a lot more liability than these high schoolers driving.
Well, I like the idea of having a kid drive the bus.
No, you can't.
I missed that.
No, you can't get that, no,
Okay.
students driving themselves in their own
Sorry.
cars. That's a whole can of worms we really don't want to go.
I know, never mind.
I'm not excited. So I'm glad we clarified that. All right, wow.
That's not going to fly, Dave.
Yeah,
Maybe that could be one of those career path things.
yeah, that's what, I was thinking that, that'd be great.
You live on that retirement.
Okay, move on.
I'm sorry.
I think, do you think they're ever gonna change into some of those requirements for CDLs and stuff as the bus shortage, school bus driving is a shortage across the United States now? I would think one of these days that
It's kind of like teachers, substitute teachers.
they like have a substitute.
Emergency license.
Yeah, emergency license. Yeah.
Except that's an area that you.
Well, I'd rather have a non-CDL driver driving the kids in his bus than let the kids drive in the nights in Wisconsin.
But if you have a CDL, you're regular, you're in school, you need to have people that are, you don't want any scam ups, you're driving a bus with kids.
Maybe that would be better than the kids driving.
So they're not going to drive other kids.
Okay. Yeah, go to committee reports.
Let's go.
Committee reports,
We're
yeah.
done. Okay, I have just a couple things here. I'm not sure which one to do these. This is Cindy's last school board meeting. She didn't expect to be here, but Ms. Isaacson, who won the election last week, can't take his seat until the 4th Monday, so welcome, Jeff. Cindy is retiring after, as I wrote in my memo, she's retiring after 6 years. She had a strong focus on student welfare and well-being. We'll keep that in front of us, and also for the staff welfare and well-being. It's customary that we give a plaque to someone when they leave, and she didn't want a plaque. So I talked to Mr. Lukey, and we thought because of her focus on the staff, we're making a donation on behalf of the school board to the Sunshine Club, which is that organization that the staff donates to, and then there's money there if they want to give a funeral memorial or flowers to someone that's sick, or a retirement basket, meals when somebody needs, when they're ill. So that donation will go to the Sunshine Club. So thank you for your service, Cindy. COVID. Our coaches, we don't recognize our coaches enough, I don't think, because they don't do it for the money. They make little money. It doesn't cover their time or their gas. But specifically last week, Mr. Frank was recognized by the Wisconsin Football Association, Coaches Association for his 30 years of coaching. And 30 years, and I think that all 30 of those years are at Sevastopol. Yeah, I think so.
Maybe Sevastopol and combined, which is relevant for a while too. It was
Well,
always our kids, right?
Our kids, and Mr. Frank has kind of a quiet, wonderful way of earning respect from his athletes. I don't mean commanding respect, I mean earning respect. He coached my own children when they were in high school, my son football and JV basketball and my daughter in track. And now they work with him as peers. Jason coached with him. He's her partner teacher. They still call him Mr. Frank. They might call Mr. Licky Kyle, but they call Mr. Frank Mr. Frank. So, so if you see him around or you want to drop him a note, that's 30 years of hard knocks. And that's not the only thing he's done. I mean, he has coached in the basketball program. He coached high school track back in the middle 1990s.
He's middle school track right today.
He's middle school track right now, so he's done a lot. So just wanted to recognize him. And that's all I have. Communication committee. When that committee met, I think all we really talked about was the spring issue of the Pioneer Times newspaper. So that will be coming out sometime shortly before. Well, I'm not sure if it comes before graduation or after graduation, but around the end of May, 1st of June. Budget report, I don't know that any other committees met. Athletics, no. Okay. Budget report.
You can see our cash in hand in Fund 10 is $7 million right now. Now we start going through the months where our revenue is less than our expenses for a while. We're probably on top of $415,000 that got transferred out of Fund 10. About that portion.
Yeah, it's just the revenue that we brought in for Fund 39 has to get transferred to the Fund 39 account, so that any interest that we earn stays with Fund 39. We got that now it's revenue, it's just the cash has to be moved. We won't receive the rest of our tax levy payments until August, although we did receive a check from the county this week for lottery credit. So that was from the 5 different municipalities, it was $178,000, but the rest of it we'll get in August when tax payments are made in July. Right now, since a lot of things have kind of slowed down on my desk, I'm doing claims. And what I mean by that is claims on all of our grants. Title I, Title II, Title IV, special ed, ESSER funds, putting in those claims, adjusting budgets so that way they match up with what's available, what we spent, and then getting the money to them. Hopefully I'll get all the claims done before the end of the fiscal year, so we don't have to have them waiting on those funds. Some of them we will have to wait on some, but just getting those claims done so the cash will be on hand moving forward from there. So.
And the $380,000 for the per pupil aid, that is not on the revenue limit worksheet. That was put in the biennial budget so that it didn't build on the base from year to year. So it comes off the books after the biennial budget runs out. Hopefully when they do the next biennial budget, they'll have this per pupil rate in there again. But in the past, like 10 years ago, they would always increase the per pupil rate by a couple $100 every year. They've kind of capped that off and given it as categorical aid so that it's more easy to cut in the future. It's less stable, I guess is the best way to describe it. So, but it's there for now, so that's good.
Any questions? Then we'll move to the facilities.
Facilities for this building. We have a sewer smell from a bathroom back up between Judas's room and Wendy Vanderhoof's room, but that's been addressed. The plumber's coming out to get it straight. It's how the gas exits the building, so we're working on that. Noise around here, this building's,
Couple leaks.
yeah, but it's been minor stuff.
New doors have been put in.
New doors came over spring, well, they came, actually, they were here in February, but it took them a week to put in, so we had them put in the 1965 part over spring break when the kids weren't around. That's pretty much it for this building.
How'd the overflow problem work out
Overflow.
in the biology? Science.
The repair process.
Oh, I think we're all right. Dan and Katrina drilled some holes in the offices on the first floor to see if it was in the drywall or not. It's not. This floor, because we have some carpet squares, he was able to rip them up, dry them out, and put them back down. If you go where the reception area is for the two sectors, if you look up, it's going to need to be repainted. The one item that we won't address till summertime is the ceiling in the biology room on the west half is metal. And so, because it was hot water, it heated up like a steam shower. And so, it's rusted a little bit up there, and I don't know how the painter will treat that. So that could be a big expense, but we have a $25,000 deductible. We'll be under that at this point unless that's a major expense. So yeah, I kind of forgot that the flood happened right before spring break.
How did that happen? Because something bumped?
Yes, okay, so you have the sink, and above the sink is a drying rack for test tubes and beakers and that kind of stuff. And they put a dissection tray there. The dissection tray fell off and hit the faucet on and fell into the sink, blocking the drain, and then it steamed up and it ran over. And you think, well, that's a 1 in a million shot, but then Officer Hilseback, we watched the tape to see if someone was vandalism or whatever. No one came in the building from Friday till Sunday. And we were lucky Jason Margraf came in when he did, otherwise that water kept running until Monday. And Hilseback tried it 3 times, and then that's the third time he got it to turn on the water and do exactly the same thing. And then Jason Margraf was playing around with it, he got on his 4th attempt, so there's no dissection trays in the drying rack anymore. But I would have put one up there too, so I thought, okay, it's got to try, right? That's true, but test tubes and beakers only, yeah.
What are the chances, huh?
That's pretty good, because you can do it 3 times out of 10, yes. Yeah, who would have thought, exactly.
Is there room to move the drying rack, just to remove the rest?
Not with the cabinetry we have.
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah. So it's going to be beakers and test tubes only, going forward. Yeah. And then the field project. Last week, Wednesday, was bid day. We didn't get many bids in each sub-area, and overall, we're over budget by $12,962. But Myron is going back out. They want to talk to the electrician again because his area was over, and they only had one, and they think they need to have him reconsider a couple of items. And they're looking for another bid to go with it. When you're over budget, you're allowed to go back out. The plumbing was estimated to be a cost of $37,000. It's $52,000 over budget. They've reached out to more local plumbers, and every local plumber they've reached out to says we're too busy, we can't take on that project. But they're still seeking some answers there. The plumber that did the bid.
So I mean, it was budgeted to be 32 and it came in at 80.
37 and then came in at, yes, 89, right? So, but the plumber that did the bid, he is concerned about hitting bedrock, and they don't think there's that much there, so they're having a discussion about maybe having a difference allowance for the bedrock and just worry about the plumbing separate. And then roofing, originally when bid day came, they had no bids for roof. Now they've got one, and they've got a couple more coming in. So they're hoping between electrical, plumbing, and roofing, they can knock down that $12,962 and get us within budget. We'll know more hopefully next week, because a lot of guys are busy, so they're not doing bids. They're busy. And, I don't know, so we give a list of all the roofers, electricians, plumbers we knew. They already had a whole list, so I don't know. Yeah, so that's what we got going there. And I did tell them today, when they said, well, we're $12,962, what do we do? I said, keep going, so.
Anything else?
We have about $540,000 in donations, counting the Thermotronics money. And we're hopeful that our committee can still reach out and name other doors out there. So
540 with
542 with the $500,000 for it. Yeah, we haven't had any other large donors that would have naming rights of any sort come forward.
Any questions for Mr. McKee? Not the legislative report?
A couple of things to add. As I mentioned in my report, our CISA board meeting was last night. And just a compliment to pass along, Gary Siebert is the president of the Howard Swammable board. And he mentioned last night that he was very pleased. He's an official, an athletic official. And he was very pleased with the event that he did here at Sevastopol. He thought the girls were just outstanding. They were very complimentary to him. And he did let Brooke Tank know that he thought our kids were just top. So that was nice to hear.
So that was volleyball?
Yes. I
Yeah,
think
not
it
Gary, was volleyball, yeah.
And we talked a bit about the lack of officials. In fact, that came up at our WASB board meeting too, because one of our board members is the representative to the WIAA board. And he indicated that in the state there is a shortage between 3,500 and 4,000 officials. And we're trying to work with high school kids now to get them trained to be officials, particularly juniors and seniors. So it really is quite a problem. So it was nice to hear that from Gary last night. And then the other thing that came out of the CISA board meeting last night, our geek at CISA, equivalent to Stephen, has developed a manual for work at home, which is extremely detailed. And right now we probably don't have people working from home, but who knows, we may in the future, and we certainly did in the past. So Brad has covered every last thing about what the procedures should be, what the rules are, how to operate in a work from home position. And now with that being the thing, I guess in business and industry, who knows where that might go for us too. So it's a wonderful resource out there, should we ever need that.
So is that for, like, how they're supposed to operate their day, or how to manipulate the technology?
And the technology, when they need to report to the office, how their day goes, how their phones work, how they interact with people at the work site and off site, and it's just an excellent, excellent manual. I don't think he missed a detail. And then at our WA board meeting, we had as our guest Tom McCarthy, who is the executive director at DPI. And he talked a lot about the direction of DPI, needing to listen to what their community wants, not only locally as our local boards, but also as the DPI. They are trying to reposition their resources to coincide with what the community is wanting from school districts. And we talked a lot about the teacher work shortage, trying to retain teachers who are leaving, looking at juniors in college to work as subs and be paid because districts can't get subs. The DPI is also looking at mental health for students and staff, school safety, finance reform, particularly around revenue limits, and an emphasis on early childhood education, along with giving every child what they need to be successful. So it was very interesting to hear from him and learn about what DPI is up to these days. And then we talked about the focus groups that WASB is going to be running. They will be superintendents in one group, board presidents in another, and board members in another. They'll be looking at such topics as government relations, legal issues for school districts, governance, communication, and advocacy, and what kinds of services and resources school boards need from Wisconsin Association of School Boards. So that's going on there. And then WASB, we have the new board member gathering next Tuesday night in Green Bay. And Jeff, I understand you can't make that meeting, but there is an online meeting. So hopefully you can tune into that. And then we have the WASB Spring Workshop coming up on May 17th at CISA in Green Bay, starting at 6:30, dinner at 6. And this will be an opportunity to focus on governance and excellence for school boards. So, a lot going on.
Okay, thank you. Not for a long discussion tonight, but a question for the administrators. Representative Kitchens is pushing this reading bill to change the way literacy is taught in schools, and the governor has vetoed it twice. And not for discussion tonight, but I'm wondering, have you talked about it? Are you in favor of it? Are you against it? With,
Well, it's one curriculum for the whole state, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I'd rather have us do our, be allowed to, I don't think one size fits all for the
so,
422 school districts
so
out
my
there.
thought is if Sevastopol doesn't think this is beneficial to Sevastopol, maybe we need to communicate to Kitchens.
I will meet with them on the 29th at 8:30.
Don't we already have a common curriculum, is now DPI puts out? I mean, I don't understand.
Common Core, but then you can expand from there, and how you get there, you can take different avenues, different textbooks and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, yeah.
I would agree with you if your school met certain criteria. If you were in the top 10 or 20% of the state, you should be able to do what you want to. But if you're in a school where 65% of your fourth graders aren't proficient readers, then I would say some standardization of whatever you're doing isn't working, and there may be the need for a standardized system of doing it.
I don't think the governor is opposed to the reading, doing something about reading. It's just, it wasn't really well thought out, and as I understand it from some of the bills that were put forward, there needs to be work done to come up with a remedy for the situation, and that remedy hasn't surfaced at this point.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of discourse between legislative bodies and DPI, and I think my own personal opinion is that it's very difficult for legislators or elected officials to be actual education people, although, Joe does have some experience as a school board president. I think right now there's, I think lack of respect for what DPI is trying to do and what they represent. And I think, that disconnect there is not very productive.
I think though that from the man on the street though, the issue is this, when I was seeing for myself. If the United States now the United States as a country has dropped to number 23 in reading, writing, and arithmetic scores, something is not working, and China is number 1. And if you are a realist and look into the future, that portends huge problems. And if you, as a society, if we want our future economics to be based not on the dollar, but on whatever their currency is, that has mammoth things.
Yeah.
And I think education needs to go back at some time and look at reading, writing, and arithmetic.
A follow-up to that, I was going to ask if the DPI, because a lot of those topics sound nice, is there any recognition that our, even Wisconsin, the DPI, the education in Wisconsin is not rated even when I went to school? It's way below when I graduated. And to me, that when I graduated high school and I went out into the world, Wisconsin was recognized as one of the leading states. I don't believe that we're not anymore.
When we moved here,
So
Wisconsin was
DPI,
1 or
they should
2.
care. And I have never heard them bring that up. They're like, yeah, we're good. these other ideas sound cool and stuff, but that's what.
So, well, commending kitchens for, wanting to improve, but
But the avenue to get there has got to be.
the avenue to get there has to be good for schools, and we don't know if it's good for Sevastopol, so you'll communicate to him, with him. At some point, we're gonna get back to school board goals, which may be when we do some talk about our school board self-evaluation. I didn't put that on the closed session agenda tonight because I didn't know if we were gonna have a different topic that was gonna take up time. But depending on how the meeting looks next month, we will put that on the closed session agenda for next month. And then we'll move to school board operations and COVID, however long that stays on our agenda.
Right now, we don't have any known cases, so that's good. It's been like that for a couple of weeks.
At least.
Yeah, so that's good.
Excellent.
I would just like personally to commend you though on how you, because we more or less allowed you to, move through the COVID rules. And I think, personally myself, I would like to commend you as a superintendent. I think you did an excellent job during the whole COVID thing on not going goofy and not getting, or going goofy in either direction, but from a really practical point of view, talking to some parents, I think they feel likewise that this school handled COVID in very thoughtful and
Well, we had a committee that first summer, which met, and how many times we met, and then we kind of just navigated through, I guess, yeah.
I'm just trying to compliment.
Thanks.
He doesn't take much.
I think, all right.
Hi. That was a good recognition, Jerry. Graduation representatives for the Board of Education. Well, I know Dave will want to be there. I know Keith will want to be there.
And y'all can count, that's all
I
right.
know I want to be there.
I will be there.
Okay.
So I guess we should let Mr. Bear know
How many chairs?
how many chairs to set up.
We have two
It's the
ceremonies.
first Sunday, so high school graduation is the first Sunday in June. Can anybody commit now, or do you need time to think about it, or?
I would like to commit that. I'll be there.
We have at least 4
Jeff?
there for sure.
Dick?
No, I'm just
No.
saying for
Jerry?
I'm with your county.
And Adam, you made a comment, there's 2 ceremonies? I didn't understand that.
Well,
Eighth grade.
eighth grade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So for high school, I had today, Catherine's very
You have at least 4.
Isaac.
And did you get Isaac's?
5.
full.
And something comes up that you can't,
Better to have an empty chair than no chair for you
Right.
there.
Is it 1 o'clock?
Are we talking about 8th grade also then?
Is
It's
it
2
2
o'clock in
o'clock
the
now?
afternoon.
It's 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get there about 1:30, is that when you, 1:30?
How much?
8th grade is
You will?
the 6th.
Make a chair for
Eighth grade
Mr.
is the
Warren.
6th, that's
I got it on my calendar for 1, so I'll be there early. I get there by 2 then, I think, but I'm 1.
And 8th grade is when?
The 6th.
The 6th?
6 to 6.
6th of June at 6?
Yeah, I would like to be interested in that because I got 4 years apart, so maybe.
I'll go to that. Anybody else?
I could try, I'll let you
Maybe.
go over. I'll be able to.
Okay.
Mr. Bear, can you let Shelley know that we won't be
Jeff,
able
you have
to
any-
sign the
No.
diplomas until...
7, 9.
Do you want to go to 8th grade graduation?
Actually, we can't because you were sworn.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed that now.
Well, Shelley was asking about getting diplomas signed, but now that Jeff has been sworn in, he can sign the diplomas because Cindy won't be on the board when they graduate. So, because all board members have to sign their diplomas. So now that we have them, we can get them
We'll sign
signed.
like a May board meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Get some Sharpie fine point pens to sign the diplomas with because it makes a really nice looking signature.
Okay.
They should look really nice looking.
I'll,
I'll get some. I'll
Well,
get
no,
some.
we'll just get them from Cliff.
Fine point.
I'll go to the dollar store. I'll go to the dollar store, never mind.
Okay.
So get the biggest.
You can laugh at me, but presentation is everything. Okay, 21-22. 21-22
School calendar. We approved a calendar with 5.73 snow days. We used 2 full days and 2 partial days. So the last day on the schedule is June 10th. When we approved the calendar, we said we could back those off if we have a couple to spare. I would like to back off 2. So knock off the 9th and 10th as student attendance days. So last day would be on the 8th, and then have the staff come in, and rather than 13th, have them finish on the 9th.
Do I need a motion on that?
Yes, yes. 'Cause you're-
Move to
Did
approve
everyone
the
check?
change to the school calendar to move the last day with kids to June 8th and the in-service June 9th.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, Fund 73.
Yeah, this is just a discussion item. As staff have been giving us their notification that they're going to retire, for example, if 4 teachers retiring in the spring of '24, they have some post-retirement benefits, and we can set up a Fund 73. It takes a couple resolutions to do so, and we can put money in now to pay those bills that will come out when they retire, and we're paying them 3 years of their insurance or 4 years, depending on the situation. And so we can set aside funds now to pay our debt later as these folks retire. And we have a couple custodians that are retiring in the next 2 years. So we have about 6 people that are going to qualify. So it's wise to start thinking ahead. Carl's going to a conference in May where they're going to have that as one of the sessions. And so they'll bring that back. I just wanted you guys thinking about it ahead of time, that we're being proactive with our funds to take care of the debts we incur now. I know one school district that had a clause in there, and then they had a plethora of teachers retire, like 7 or 8 in 1 year. And all of a sudden they found themselves short on cash because they made a promise during the 90s that they had to pay for it now. And I don't want us to get caught up in that game, we want to get ahead of it, so.
Currently, right now, we pay as we go, and we just budgeted in our normal budget. One thing that we'll say is Fund 73 is a trust fund, so it's a little different than some of the other funds that we have, but I have a bit more information.
The question I would ask is, once you put money in that and you're servicing those requirements, you don't lose that money. So if we don't use it as quick as we thought, it will just stay in there, because those
Stay in there.
more
for all
people will
insurance.
eventually retire. So
Right,
I think it's just
exactly.
good planning.
And you
That's a great idea.
you don't put as much, you put a little less than what you know you're going to need, because then you can take the rest out of Fund 10, but it does have, it serves a purpose. It's like saving for a rainy
We'll
day.
plan when we get there.
Yeah.
So is that benefit negotiated benefit, or is that from the state statute?
It is a negotiated benefit that's in our employee handbook that the board can make a motion at any time to take out if they wanted to. I wouldn't advise doing that because they've been seeing that for their whole career there. If you hold it,
It
I
would be
wouldn't
something
think
you'd
it's
have
very
to grandfather all of it.
right, you'd have to work.
And
it
not
out.
everyone qualifies, right? You have to be here so many
Yeah,
years.
you're so many years, especially if there's support staff or teachers.
So they stay on, just so I understand, so they stay on your insurance plan, or they get money to go out of the market?
Either.
First of all, you have to be here, you have to have worked your 20 years.
Yeah,
You have to be, for a teacher, you have to be over 57, and sport has to be over 62. You stay, for teachers, they get a sum of $14,500 for 3 years to go towards the insurance.
each year for 3 years?
Each year for 3 years. The 4th year, they can sell back their unused sick days at $100 per day
Wow.
to go towards that. Support staff does not have the option with the 4th year. Support staff stays on the same, they don't get a lump sum. Support staff gets 88%. Basically, they stay the same amount as what they are currently of the 80, of district pays 88, they pay 12% of the premiums. But
Not bad, huh? That's
but you
really
still
rich.
have to be here 20 years, so right now we have a number of them that are coming up, but we have other ones retiring that have not been here for 20
This
years.
must be normal in education.
It's common, I
Yeah.
would say, it's not every place. but
Common
it's
in the real world.
It's common in government.
Right, so
Everything's
we've got to
negotiable.
prepare for it.
Everything's what?
Everything is negotiable.
And
I
then
do
these,
think at one time we raised that
Like,
20, raised it to 20 years, I think it was
Yeah.
less.
it was at 15 and then it went to 20. And administrators also have a different one where they get up to $10,000 per year for 7 years. But that's only administrators. And they have to
7 years.
7 years, they have to be here 20 years as well.
Oh. Pretty nice.
So we got to start preparing for,
So you'll be bringing that back to us at some point
right,
with a
after
resolution?
Carl goes to his conference in May and brings back more information, but I just wanted to give a heads up that it's coming.
Well, I'm glad you're researching whoever's doing that, so thanks.
But I agree with David, just, that, I think it's, you can have a it's like a sinking fund or something you put out there, so that you put it into it so that, because
You don't like surprises.
you know it's a present. That's right.
Then we have the youth apprenticeship agreement.
Yeah, this is the Anape Trail. Is it trail? Anape Youth Apprentice, and now it's going through CESA 7, so it's broadening the number of schools we're working with. So this is our agreement to continue offering these opportunities for our kids.
So, any other discussion? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the youth apprenticeship agreement?
I would move to approve the youth apprentice agreement.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 2 school addresses.
Now that we have 4550 Highway 57, and we have a coming off of Pioneer Way, sometimes it'd be nice to tell people when they're coming to school to come off of Pioneer Way and tell them what address they're looking for. But then there's confusion if you have to, so one would be your mailing address. I would recommend we stay with 4550 for that, but it might be nice to have 2, and so there's pros and cons to it, so we'll bring it to you that say, do you want 2 addresses or 1?
So if you punch that address in for navigation, does it come up? Has anybody done that?
You know,
Do
my
we
knowledge,
have- Is there a number for Pioneer
there's
Way?
a way over here on.
So if we
It's not an
establish-
official one, but we did a Google map when we were talking about it as administrators. I forget the exact number, it's like 4823 or something like that. If you put that in, it would take you right to the front of that driveway.
It will.
For
But will it
But
specify?
you gotta know to put in,
That's a fire number, right?
But
That's a fire number.
the address would be Rip Road, not Pioneer Way.
Correct.
right,
Because Pioneer Way is a private drive where the actual address would be Rip
Comes
Road.
off of
Well, you could frame it as, district office or business office, 4550 Pioneer Way, and then what would you call the other one?
I mean,
the
School
swing
entrance.
well, we can see,
We also have,
I'll wait.
and we do have signs ordered, or not up here, but we do have signs ordered
Well,
for different
what-
parts of the building.
my- so,
It would
I
be
guess-
nice to get that.
My discussion would be, I don't recommend 2 addresses. I work with many organizations that have 1 address and they're large. You can refer to which gate to enter or which street to enter. I think the 2 addresses I think the fact that there's a learning curve for our community right now.
There is.
And I was, in fact, we were BSing about this, and I talked to my wife, who grew up here her entire life, right? Someone moves into town, they're gonna know that's the front door. 10 years from now, everyone's gonna know that's the front door. So this is a transitory issue for us. And I do think signs would help, and I think so when you are, for Dan, whenever we're getting deliveries, it is very common in that business to say, you're coming into this, you're coming into this entrance off of this road. We do that all the time. So, and I just don't think what we're gonna tell I think the community's gonna be confused, why do we have 2 addresses? I mean, it's the same school. Now, that's my input, but, you know.
That's why we brought it here, because they knew there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to it, and
Can I make a motion?
Well, if there's a more discussion, I
I agree with Dave totally. You can't have two addresses. We went from 16th place to 18th. That was hard for me, but we did it.
do we need an action on this if we're not going to do anything?
If there's no action, we just continue on it, business as is.
I mean, now, how painful is this issue you're having that you brought it up here, or has it just been some discussion?
Well, we have a lot of people come to the wrong doors all the time, and then we tell them, you gotta drive around, and
And I think, for me,
I
I think
think
about
it's the
everything.
signage will help, yeah.
Is it delivery people coming to
It's
those
delivery, it's people coming for a blood drive, it's whatever.
I think, I go back to what you said though. I think about a person every time I come to a meeting here. Like, when are you gonna change the address? This is the street. You go to the school now, right? You don't come in that back, that's the back door, okay? This is the front door. It's gonna take,
Time.
it's gonna take time, it takes pain and sorrow, but as you said, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I do think the county needs to jack up and put a sign on the highway that says this is Sevastopol school entrance.
I mean, town owns that corner, so we could go to the town of Sevastopol and request to put a sign there.
That's not a county.
Across the road.
It's a
But
county.
it's on the highway,
It's on a
so
county road.
wouldn't you need to get permission from the highway department?
DOT.
Because it's on the highway?
I guess, yeah, but there's, check on the regulations.
But there's a process. Why don't we bring, Dick mentioned this
That sounds like
tonight,
it was a
why don't we
building
bring it to the building committee,
Right.
talk about it, and there is a process, we've bantered this around for a while. Most schools, like when I go to a school, and PS, I just go like with the address on the athletic thing, and then I get there, and then you gotta drive around the school until I see the school bus and the field, and I park. So the frustration, I have that everywhere I go, when I go to, all these other schools that's on the calendar now.
I agree, let's refer it to the building.
I do too.
committee.
All right,
Let them bring a recommendation back.
Yeah.
let's do it.
Tell them to be bold.
Well, we're working better with the town. That was what it sounds. Okay.
I think it's all smooth.
You can check that.
Okay, so we can refer that on. Education Week, May 2nd to, are we still talking about that? Sorry.
Cindy's last comment, as she's leaving the board, was she thinks we should get this done, and we
We've been talking about it.
So we're going to the building grounds committee, we'll set up a meeting for that at the end of the meeting.
Sorry to interrupt.
All right.
Cindy, you can still be an advisor to that committee. Feel strongly about it.
And Brinker. Education Week, May 2nd through the 6th.
Is the board interested in doing something for Education Week? So this is the April meeting.
So
What does that mean?
there's so many weeks. There's Teacher Week, there's Aid Week, there's Bus Driver Week. This is just recognizing education.
It's Teacher Week,
Teacher
we call
Week.
education,
Oh.
because we included our still and our whole staff.
Well, when was it when we came here to do lunch that day?
That would be
Christmas.
Well, that was Christmas.
Christmas time you were here.
Well, I mean, do we work with any of the local, Peninsula Pulse, advocate, are they aware, are they contact?
They haven't, but sometimes they'll do a feature on, sometimes they won't. It's up to them, but
Maybe contact them and give them a little bit of
Well, why don't we, since this is kind of like short notice, to plan something, why don't we just like put an ad in the Pulse saying, school board salutes our teachers at Sevastopol, thank you for a job well done. Bingo.
that'd be good. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Take motion.
I make a motion that we take out an ad, the size of the ad, at your, however you feel, at your discretion, recognizing our staff by the Sevastopol School Board on a job well done during this past year.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Once in a while.
My only supportive, I agree with everything there. My only follow-up comment is there a budget available? I mean, is this something we want to just have?
That's the general fund, maybe you could handle that?
Or cater in like a bunch of Mike's Kringles or healthy salads or whatever the staff
The
wants.
admin team will take care of something else.
Okay, that's.
You guys take care of this, we'll take care of the rest, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Mike's Kringles. That would be good.
Yeah.
We already got a motion on the ad. You know, I can't-
All right, any other
Can't.
discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the resignation of Carissa Mann. She's an aide.
She's in the life skills classroom, and she has an opportunity to.
I'd like to
See
say
what- yeah, go ahead,
something.
Melissa.
Do I say it before or after?
No,
Say
say
it
it.
now.
Okay. I just want a sincere thanks to Carissa Mann. She's been with Sevastopol for a number of years. Chris is definitely the kind of employee here at Sevastopol that will do anything that anybody asks. The other thing that I'd like to highlight about Carissa is her compassionate heart. She's always worked with our students with the most diverse needs, always with a smile, zero hesitation, so she will be missed. So I would like to say, you know, wish her, we all do, wish her well and thank her for all her years of service here at Sevastopol.
Move to accept the resignation of Carissa Mann.
Second.
Questions or discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So we took care of this, NWTC, no, we didn't take care of that, this is something else. This is not the insurance.
No, this would be the partnership to have the CNC classes and here with NWTC offering instructors.
So
What is it?
questions,
Mr.
did
Bear, was it
Mr.
seven?
Bear want to comment on it?
7 students was the.
Yeah, we currently have 7 students that are going through the enrollment process through their individual schools. That doesn't necessarily mean that's a finalized number. Our goal was to have 4 students, which is half of the enrollment required by WTC. We have 5 business partners who are supporting the other 4 seats, so either way it's compensated for. So with 7, we have some resources to extend this program into multiple years and ensure that it is offered for the
That's awesome.
It's a great position.
Is this just for approval, then we have to approve this?
So the schools are Sturgeon Bay, Sevastopol, and Southern Door?
Actually, Gibraltar has
Gibraltar.
students involved. Southern Door has 3, we have 3, Gibraltar has 1. Sturgeon Bay doesn't have any, but they're
Great.
part of our conversation, and they have students.
They're welcome to join if they would have it.
And this is where we're using our lab here, they're going to teach you?
That's correct. NWTC will be placing one of their instructors in our campus to teach 17 credits to our students. They'll leave with a helper certificate, and they'll be job ready and employed right away. It is the most growing industry in York County right now, and so that is a for us and definitely a great value to our kids. We're using that lab and facility, and it will also be certified as a training site if we continue through this process, and NWTC is ready to certify for adult learners because our businesses are having a hard time sending them a green bay because they're working a full-time job and moving back and forth. We've got them in the schools. So there's a great partnership established, and I'd like to see that continue.
Move to approve the NWTC K-12 partnership agreement.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Bear, for your
That's
energy
exciting, yeah.
and support on seeing this through. This is amazing. This puts Sevastopol on the map one more time as
Great
doing good
program.
work. Thank you.
There's a similar agreement that needs to be signed by between us and DCEC because they're going to be the financial or fiscal agent for this project, so we're going to have to host that. I don't know if we have that in the packet today, but we could give Mr. Lidke permission to sign that.
Yeah. It's all kind of part of the deal. It's a 3-way partnership. So.
Do you need a motion or not? Good. I'm good.
Partnership, we got it.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the resignation of Mr. Bear.
Mr. Barrett have an offer at Menasha High School. It's a larger high school. We have 3.5 assistant principals and an AD, the one who's bought this, and we wish him the best and thank him for his years of service here.
I actually have something I want to say.
Go ahead.
I wrote it down so I wouldn't get emotional. But Adam, I know I speak for many when I say that we are absolutely ecstatic for your new adventure. The new students, the parents, the teachers, are really getting a principal who gives, who has kids, who cares deeply for others and consistently tries to bring out the best in others. So very, 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 very lucky to have you. I also want to thank you personally for, for the leadership that you have given me, not only when I was teaching for you and with you, but also the skills that you have helped bring out me as I sit next to you right now. And most notably, one of the things that I will carry and take with me is helping me understand how important it is to see perspective from many. And when you see perspective from many, you make better decisions for all. So you've helped me grow in that area, and I'll never forget you. We've pushed each other, but we've also built each other up along the way, and I appreciate you so much for that. So I just want to say thank you for giving Sevastopol everything you got, and I sincerely, and I'm speaking for many, wish you, Betsy, Aiden, and Olivia the best in your next adventure.
I'll second that. Thank you, Adam.
I appreciate it.
I'm
So proud
happy
of
for
her.
Adam and his family. It's a wonderful opportunity for Sevastopol kids and families and staff who will have the opportunity to work with you in the future.
Thank you. I'm so proud of everything that we've accomplished here at Sevastopol. We built, I think, an institution that is well respected across the state and nation as far as students' performance. And that's why we're here to give our students better opportunities. I see myself as a servant to them to make sure they have the best possible education. And I feel like we've done that. We've got a model that will continue. We've got great people that will remain. So I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. But this is a wonderful opportunity for me and my family. It gives me an opportunity to step more into a leadership role in which I'll be managing teams of people. I'm excited about it because I'll be able to focus on my strengths and build up other people around me and their strengths. And collaboration and cooperation is really something that I thrive in, that environment. So I'm excited about this opportunity. And I'm joining a very progressive team with already wonderful leaders in place. And so share that opportunity. So I'm excited. So it's a great step in a good direction for me. Thank you. I appreciate all the support.
How big is the school?
I'll have about 120 staff members on it.
How many students?
Around 1,000.
We need a motion to accept Mr. Beer's resignation.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions, discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
That's great.
Then we would appoint the representative of the CISA board and convention delegate. I presume, Sue, you want to take that position?
Yes, I'll be there.
Would someone like to make that motion? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That would conclude our regular business tonight. I'll take a motion to convene to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Jerry.
Aye.
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 Motion carried at 9:07 p.m. We are back in open session at 9:16 p.m. We have a motion for the 4K teacher position.
I'll move to approve the hiring of Christine Albertson as our 4K teacher starting in the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. A motion for the full-time special education aide. Which was,
I'll move to approve Elizabeth Schaaf as our full-time special education aide.
Second.
questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Library aide.
I I would move to approve the hiring of Lori Baumgart as the elementary library media center aide.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
And that one starts next fall. The shop starts immediately, this one will be the fall.
Okay.
Yep.
Question, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The music choir teacher,
Make a motion to approve the hiring of Sarah Whitey for the elementary general music, middle school, high school choir teacher for the 22-25 school.
is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then the special education aide, part-time.
I'll move to approve Elise Anschutz as a part-time special education aide.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. That concludes business for the night. Our next meeting is May 19th. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
We should set the building and grounds committee too. The building and grounds committee meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, calendar, time.
To talk about the sign?
Yeah.
Sorry,
And address. Corner sign, we got address. Next Tuesday would work for me in the afternoon, or the week of the 25th, 26th, 28th, or 29th. 29th would have to be in the afternoon.
Next week is best for me. 20, what did you say?
19th would work for me on Tuesday
19th is good for me.
in the afternoon.
19th will work for me.
Okay.
What time?
What time works for you, David?
4:30 too late?
4:30 is good for me.
4:30 on the 19th?
4:30
4:30 and then.
Okay.
Our school board's
or
meeting.
19th. The next school board is May 19th.
19th.
I respectfully move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, and we are adjourned at 9:20 PM.
There's that last one.